Welcome to firstoffthebike.com. This guy is Greg Welch. He's the 1994 World Champion. I'm Phil Rockner, and Welshie, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Mate, rare we get you in Melbourne. You come down once a
year.
Once a year, and here you are. Very happy to see you.
Yeah.
Mate, we want to talk a little bit about who you are. A lot of people who might not be familiar with your work. You raced a lot in Speedos.
Oh, you had to bring that up, didn't you?
Like, clearly you saw tri shorts, just weren't interested, or?
No, there wasn't any around at that time. So I did my first triathlon in 1985 in Speedos, and sort of stuck like that. Actually, my last Ironman I ever did in 1999, before I retired, was in tri shorts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I hated it. And they filled up with water on the swim, and it was terrible.
1989, arguably the best year. Well, it's a good year for sport, wasn't it? The 1989 AFL Grand Final was great. Greg Lamont,
who played
8 seconds over Lauren Fignon. It was Geelong and Hawthorn. And then you had 89, which was Iron War. Everyone sort of familiar, but in the distance at Iron War was you as an age grouper, third on the podium. I mean, that's just a phenomenal performance, and none that will ever get repeated again. It will never be repeated. I mean, talk to us, 89. What were you doing for work, and what got you over there?
Oh, it was fun. And one other thing, 1989 was Avignon, the very first ITU World Championship.
Mark Allen.
Yeah, official World Championship. So, 1989 was terrific. I was an age grouper. I was 23 years old. Going into Kona, it was amazing. I was just coming off a whole bunch of races for Team Australia at that, Avignon World Titles. We did 7 races in 8 weeks, and all the travel. We did 2 races in France, 1 in Germany. 1 in Vancouver, 1 in Toronto, and 1 in Chicago. So there was 7 races in 8 weeks. I was working as a plasterer at the time, and so I had 2 months off work, to go and do those races. Which I was lucky enough to just get into the team because I was the last spot, picked onto the team. So it was amazing. So I think I went into 1989 with all those races under my belt and not too much training for Ironman, and it sort of worked.
So you're just running through, and where did you get off the bike? What position?
So I swam in 1989, I swam, I think it was about a 51-minute swim, somewhere around there. I was around about in the 30s or 40s, I think, getting off the bike, and I ran into third.
It's amazing. So just picking off people as you ran through, the feeling must have been amazing.
It wasn't just picking off people, it was picking off my heroes and idols, Scott Tinley and Ken Glar and Paulie Kieran, all these big name athletes, one by one. And
were they saying anything to you as you went past?
No, not really. No one knew who I was. So it was terrific. So, I was just competing, for a prize in my age group at that time, because, I may have competed at the World Championships, in the elite category, but I wasn't professional until May of 1990. So, it was amazing to get on the podium at 23 years old, 8:32. It was like the first year, I think, that we rode aero bars and clipless pedals.
Yeah, so landmark technology there going around. Of course, Scott Tinley would have been one of the first few people to pioneer the old aero bars. And I think the story goes, once he racked his bike after the first Ironman, they fell to pieces. Yeah,
exactly. So in 1988, I think it was 88, he had the aero lights, and they were just like this little round axle. And I looked at it and I'm like, dang, how could you, create any power out of like a little axle, just putting, pressure on an axle like that? But they worked, it was in the cleat that was the bigger thing with the pad and everything. But and then he was the guy with the aero helmet back in like the early 80s. And he pioneered quite a few things, and Scott Tinley performance wear as well.
Well, exactly. I think most of us as kids ran around with that stuff. Those of us who are tragic enough to be kids at that age and running around doing triathlon.
That means one thing, we're old.
I'm old.
No, I'm old and you're...
I'm on the way, don't worry.
Yeah.
Talking about some of the great rivalries though in the time, I remember you all had nicknames, and I love that about that. No one has nicknames anymore. I mean, Crowy's Crowy, and that's great.
Yeah.
You were Plucky. We had the Grip, Mark Allen. Yeah. We had the Man.
It was the Grip or the Zen Master.
The Zen Master.
Yeah, so he had 2 names.
Well, he was extra special.
Yes.
He had a wicked mullet too, didn't he? I mean, they all sported.
So did Tinley.
Kenny Sousa, known for his lightning bolt. George Pearce with that military style haircut. In the
Kenny Glar with the curls.
Yeah, it was a real sense of, there was a real character around all you guys, and the Big Four obviously with you sort of lurking there, and I guess the Big Four was an American invention. Otherwise, it would have been those three plus you, maybe the big five.
It should have been the big five,
Yeah.
not me, Mike Pigg. That should have been the big five because Mike Pigg was, beating those guys all the time, when it was right at the end of the big four. But I was right at the tail end of those guys' careers. And it was amazing to race against, guys like that. Mark Allen was probably the hardest guy for me to beat. He had my number.
Yep.
Simon Lessing did too, actually. But I always loved my rivalry with Brad Bevan, the Croc. Brad's an awesome guy. We were best friends, way back there, and training partners actually.
You didn't swim in the lake or the crocodile
in the rivers
with him up in Mirrorwilla or
Mirrorwinnie.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, actually, I did go up there and train with him one time. He came down to train with us really, and stay with my family a lot. But I really enjoyed racing against. You'd always get 110% effort out of Brad. So he was fearsome.
And the F1 Series 2 really put you guys on the map on the Australian sporting landscape. You were all very well known, yourself, Bevan, Steve Foster was in that group as well. You were always on television. Miles Stewart, people knew, and there was a consciousness about triathlon. And do you think that's what we're lacking here in Australia, is the fact that we don't have any, real, I guess, authenticity about the sport to bring it into a television era?
Yeah, you know what? I would love to have that time over again because I think that the Bray Brothers and online, sports productions, they had something special and they were way ahead of their time. It was magic how they, dealt with like TV stations and non-endemic sponsorship, such as St. George Bank or Ford Motor Company or TUI's or whatever it was back then. When you bring in, non-endemic money to the table, it's really awesome like that because it takes it to a different level. We had the shows like every 2 weeks or so. We're on, Channel 10, about 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Everything was live.
A big chunk of time, isn't it, on live TV?
Big chunk of time. It was modelled off Uncle Toby's and the Kellogg's, Nutrigrain series, but it was triathlon, and all the names got to be, quite known around the households in Australia. And, we were on billboards, with St. George Bank ads, it was magnificent. When we went to all these places, it's not as if you just step off a plane and nobody knew who you were. People were yelling out your name at, at airports and shopping malls and things like that. So yeah, those pioneering days were unbelievable as far as television went. I'd love to have that back again. That's what creates heroes, champions, ambassadors, idols, icons,
And also rockets the sport into the lounge rooms of people who are going to sit around on a Sunday arvo and maybe check it out. But the highlight of your career obviously was the 94 world title in Kona. It must have been for you then just the icing on the cake after so many, close attempts.
Yeah, so I won it on my 7th attempt. I think Macca did too, actually. So did Mark Allen. So did someone else, a woman who tried that amount of times too. But anyway, it was the one thing that did solidify my career. 1990 won the Olympic distance, and then the duathlon in 93, 96 was the long course, and it'd be really difficult to do that again. I think, if somebody went out and, tried it, I think Javier Gomez could do it, but I don't know if too many other people could do it, but I didn't think of those things at the time. It was just, going from one race to the next and, just thinking about, what I was doing for training. And if I trained right, I'd perform right, so,
Yeah, well mate, it's been nice sitting here and having a bit of a chat about your career. It certainly was fun to watch as a young guy getting involved in the sport, and now with the great work you're doing with Ironman and Ironman Live, and you see you're doing some beautiful work with the beautiful people from Oakley as well. Thanks so much for having us and housing us here. And,
pleasure.
Look forward to seeing what comes up next for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Greg.